Do you feel like your social media game is on point, or are you struggling to keep up? With all of the platforms out there, it is tough to navigate through the noise and avoid the shiny objects. In this episode, I am joined by one of the leading experts on social media to guide us through the best practices and increase your online presence. Hello, and welcome back to The Real Estate Woman, a podcast for women in the real estate industry who are passionate about expanding their careers through professional development and leadership. I'm Debbie LaRiviere, owner of Monterre Coaching, a company that ascends top talent to new heights in the real estate industry, and that is exactly what I want for you. Today, we are joined by nationally known Katie Lance. Katie Lance is the CEO and co-founder of Katie Lance Consulting. She is a social media strategist, speaker, content creator for real estate agents and brokers, entrepreneur, author of Get Social Smart, real estate brand promoter, wife, and mom of 2 boys. Shoo, Katie, that's a lot. Katie, we are so excited to have you. As you know, this is the Real Estate Woman podcast, and who better than to have on our show today than you, an amazing example of success as a female in our industry. Many of my listeners know that you are incredibly talented at social media content creation. You're an author. You work with all real estate agents, brokers, teams across the industry, public keynote speaker, and mom of 2 boys. So I'm sure there's lots of fun in your life. One thing I'm always curious about, Katie, is the journey that these successful women have taken to get them where they are. So I would love for you to share your journey with us as to where you started and what got you into being a very successful entrepreneur in the real estate industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Debbie. It's really a pleasure to be here and to chat with you. My journey has taken lots of twists and turns, as I'm sure a lot of people have. I was always one of those people who really enjoyed marketing. So that's always just kind of been something that has always been really passionate for me. And my journey into real estate really started actually about 19 years ago, which is crazy as I'm saying that out loud. I feel really old as I'm saying that number out loud, but it was, sort of like early 2000s, and I got my first job in the real estate space. So I'd always done marketing and always just been really passionate about marketing. And in 2005, got hired by a local real estate brokerage here in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where I'm based. And I was hired to be marketing director. And it sounds a little corny, but I really fell in love with the real estate industry. I really fell in love with how hard agents and brokers worked. During that time, it was like really sort of the early stages of social media. There were things like blogging had just kind of started. There was things like Active Rain that were starting to pop up. Facebook was kind of a little bit of a thing. Twitter, things like that started to pop up. And so it was a really interesting space to be in. And I remember during that time, I was the gal helping agents with their newspaper ads. I was the one helping them put their Sunday flyers together. And it was just such a great experience, working really sort of boots on the ground with realtors. And so I did that for a number of years. And that's when I got introduced to Inman. And I went to my first Inman conference and was like, oh my gosh, these are my people, real estate, marketing, technology. I absolutely loved it. And went to a few events of theirs over the years, and then ended up working for Inman. So during that time, I actually saw a tweet that said that they were looking for a marketing superstar or something like that. And I was like, well, I could be that. So I applied, and then I went to work for Inman for a number of years. So that really opened up my world in a big, big way. I had the opportunity to run their social media, and I grew their social media substantially and create all kinds of fun programs. I started to do a lot of speaking on stages. And, I always say during that time, that's kind of where I got the entrepreneurial bug myself, so to speak. And so in 2012, decided to go out on my own. And so it's been, almost 12 years now, which is crazy. Yeah. I work side by side with my husband, Paul. We're business partners. We have a small virtual team. We have 2 boys, as you mentioned. And our passion is just really helping agents and brokers get smarter about social media. We do a ton of training and coaching, like you said, all across the country and virtually, just helping agents and brokers wrap their arms around social media, video, AI, all the things. And we love it. I'm so grateful I get to do what I love each and every day. It never changes, or I should say it never stays the same. It changes all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's awesome that your husband works with you too. Tell me a little bit about the team that you've built. It's been here a long time, 12 years, like you said, in your current position. And so with your company, how do you manage all the diverse roles, the travel, the consulting, creating great content, your cute little quick YouTube tips that I take in, honestly, weekly, to see what I should be putting out there. So how do you balance all of that?
Well, when I first started, it was just really me. And my husband was working his corporate job at the time and was helping me out kind of late at night and on the weekends. And quite a few years back, he was able to quit his corporate job and really work with me side by side, which is awesome. So I always say I get to do all the fun stuff. Like I get to be, on Instagram and YouTube, and I'm doing stuff like this with podcasts and interviews and training. And he is so great at behind the scenes. He's so great at dealing with just the business part of the business, finances and taxes and invoicing and contracts and all the things that make a business run. So we work really well. I try to stay in my lane. He stays in his lane. And then we do have a small team. So we have a great marketing manager that's worked with us for, about 7 or 8 years now. And she really helps in a lot of ways, just with all of our marketing and messaging. She's kind of like my second brain. So when I get a bunch of ideas for classes or videos, she'll either rein me in or be like, "Oh, let's think about it this way." So she's amazing. And our whole team is remote. So she's my husband and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's out in Colorado. We also have a video editor that we brought onto our team quite a few years ago. She helps with our video editing. So a lot of the videos you see, I found that it's really beneficial for me to be the one on camera. I just don't always need to be the one editing all the videos. So she is out in Arizona. She does a ton of our video editing, helps manage our YouTube channel, and just a great resource. And then lastly, we have a customer service manager on our team. She's out in Pennsylvania, in the Pittsburgh area. And we have thousands of agents we work with who are inside of our academy. And so she helps when people can't figure out their login, or they want to change their credit card, or they want to change, they want to sign up for this class or this class. And where's this on your website, Katie? Like, she's great at just sort of, again, helping people, point them in the right direction. So we're small but mighty. And it's just been, I feel extremely lucky. We have some amazing people who are just great at what they do. And I try to just get out of the way so they can do what they do best. And it's been awesome to see our team grow. And yeah, like I said, small but mighty, but it's exciting.
Well, it's like what we always say, quality over quantity too, right?
Yeah.
If you get the right people in the role, and that's what we always coach to, get the right people in the right role, and you'll take off running. You don't need 1,000 people trying to do a job that one really great person can do. What was interesting as you were describing where everyone lives, it sounds like you are all the way across the board on time zones too. So
yeah, that's a little tricky sometimes, but we're all in the United States, so that's helpful. We have at some point, we've had people over the years in different countries. That's a whole other ballgame. So we're like, let's stick to US so we can at least manage those time zones. So
yeah, the 3-hour difference is very relative compared to 7 and 8 hours.
Yeah.
Well, as we've all experienced in our growth through the real estate industry, sometimes some challenges, struggles, being a woman in business. And I'm very familiar with Inman. I appreciate that they embrace females on the stage and they really get both sides of the voice on different issues, female and male. That hasn't always been the case, not just with Inman necessarily, but just across our industry. And as we look at the industry, one of the stats that I hang on is that 66% of the realtors in the United States are female and very limited in our leadership roles. So would love to hear a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you've faced or how you coach to overcome those challenges as females want to have more opportunity in this space.
Yeah, it is interesting. I see that all the time. I see, the demographics from NAR about, how this really is a female dominated industry in a lot of ways. Probably, I would imagine, because of the flexibility that is allowed, by being an entrepreneur and independent contractor for the most part. But it is interesting what happens when, you look at leadership, and I look at a lot of like the top lists of, the top 100 this or the top 50 this. And it's like, the numbers are quite skewed between male and female. And, I think that, I could be wrong, but I do think a big part of it is things have always been done a certain way. And, not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I think the way leadership has always been done has always sort of suited men in a lot of ways. And it's a very traditional sort of, setup of like, we all go to the office and we work between these hours and this hours. And I think with what happened during the pandemic, that really shook things up a lot as far as, do we all have to be in the office? And yes, for some people that works, and yes, and for other people it doesn't. And what do the work hours look like? And, can leadership be looked at differently? So I am optimistic. I have started to see a lot of changes. But things are slow to move. And when you're dealing with big corporations, especially some of the big franchises, it's like moving a cruise ship. It's like there's a lot of moving pieces involved. So, I think one of the best things that anyone in leadership, but especially females in leadership, can do is try to be a mentor, try to look back to, maybe where you were and say, hey, maybe I could give someone else a leg up, or reach out to them and offer my advice, or let's hop on a call and let's chat about, what you want to do. And so, I try to do that a lot with people that I see who are in real estate or even in the online marketing world, of like, let's see how we could, take you to that next level. So it's interesting. I still think we have, so an evolution of things, but I'm hoping things are starting to change, and hopefully things are starting to change just how we perceive work, I also think a big part of this is boundaries. Like, one of the things I coach on is like, I don't think anybody needs to work 24/7. I think that's ridiculous. And I think that it's perfectly okay to have boundaries. And to me, boundaries look like, when do I take my first call in the morning? When do I stop answering email? When am I available? When am I not available? And I'll just share one quick example. At the beginning of the year, one of the things I always teach is I look at my calendar with my husband and we mark off all of our days off. We plan our vacations in advance. And to me, that includes things like birthdays, or like spring break, or first week of school, last week of school, like anything where I'm like, okay, we're just taking that time off. I may not know where we're going, but we're planning when that time off is. And when you plan that in advance, I feel like that just helps. It makes it a lot easier when someone says, hey, Katie, are you available on this date or this date? And I can say, oh, thank you so much. I'm not. I so appreciate it. But let me refer you to a couple other folks who might be able to help you, right? It just makes saying no a lot easier. And just having those boundaries with time off, with when you're working, when you're not working. And I think as we start to be strong in that, hopefully that'll start to trickle up to leadership as well.
Yeah. And I love that story. I'll tell you, boundaries is a big issue for anyone in the real estate industry, because the client has the expectation that you are their they are your only client, right? And I have some clients that joke about that. One thing that I noticed you did early this year was adjust for Fridays. That was something I heard either on a podcast or you mentioned somewhere. I had heard that, and I thought, you know what, that makes a lot of sense as someone that's building a business, to have a day to actually work in the business. Like, it's a work day or it's a play day, but it's my day. Yeah. And so that was something I embraced early on this year. Thank you very much for that. So I always call these lollipop moments, places where other people don't really know that they've impacted someone. I can tell you that has been one of the biggest changes that has positively impact me, my business. If I choose to do half the day prospecting, I know I have that time to prospect. The other side of it is with 2 children in college and 1 in high school, it gives me a day just to have for myself, or I get to go visit my girls at college and not feel like I'm running out the door Saturday morning to run back in the door Sunday night. And so, everyone thinks in real estate, oh, that can't be done. I was in an office with a client last week, and the broker owner, who is male, said to a client of mine, you never turn down business. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Now, this client of mine had a baby 6 months ago. And I'm sitting there listening to this, and I heard it, and I took it all in, and I went back, and we had our coaching call this week, and I said, here's something that I heard while I was in your office. I want to autocorrect that. It's okay to say no, because that person is living in a scarcity mindset. not in an abundance mindset. And that's where we need to live. Like, set those boundaries. So thank you for the Fridays. Not that I'm out partying every Friday, but it gives me some downtime. It gives me that downtime.
I'm so happy that inspired you, and hopefully it'll inspire, other folks who are listening. It's something I tried to do last year, and I didn't stick to that boundary very well. I sort of let things seep in because it's really easy to do. People say, "Hey, can you chat on Friday? Do you have time at Friday? How about Friday?" And you have to say, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm not available." You don't have to give a reason. I'm not available. How about Monday or Tuesday or whatever time, But I feel the same way. Just having that time. I mean, you might go to Target for an hour if you want. Great. Or you might sit and answer emails for an hour, like whatever you want to do,
Yeah, but it's no one coming in. And that I totally relate. So I love that. Thank you. And it doesn't, for our listeners, it doesn't have to be Friday. Pick Wednesday afternoon. It doesn't have to be a full day. Find the time, because again, what we tend to do, honestly, as women, we are going to the grocery store or Target or wherever, picking our kids up, and we are still on the phone. We still have the headset in our head, listening to whoever's yakking about some repair addendum or some agent that needs to be cut loose from the brokerage or what, and it's just like, it's like the radio, just turn it off sometimes. Put the phone in the drawer. That's what it is. Well,
and somebody told me once, they said, wherever you are, be there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's really stuck with me. And especially as my kids have gotten older, my kids are in middle school and high school. And, they just know. They know. And just like I know. I mean, I know when I'm talking to them and they're not really listening, and they know when we're not really listening. So it's like, be there. Either there's nothing wrong with being on your phone and getting stuff done, but it's like, you're watching TV with your kids, like, put the phone down, it's okay. I always tell my team, it's like, it's not like we're curing cancer here. Like, it's okay. We can take a break for an hour or whatever it is. It's all good. So I think, again, and sometimes what that means you might be saying no to business, right? And I know when you're early on, you feel like you can't, or maybe you don't want to say no to anything because you're in the early stages, but you get to a point where you're like, look, I want to be doing this until I retire. And if that's the case, this needs to be sustainable. Right. Mm-hmm. And so how much is enough? Right. So having that balance, it's tricky, but so important.
Yeah. And 24/7 causes retirement or back into a job, AKA, right. A lot sooner. We have sayings in our house. Oh, I know. It's just overwhelming, really, the whole industry. We have the saying, listen with your eyes. So if someone is talking to the other family member, it's eyes off of the TV, the phone, the dog, the whatever. Listen with your eyes. That's
I love that.
That's our big saying, because it's about being present. Because I will tell you, as children in college, I miss seeing their sweet little faces. So,
I bet. I know. I'm trying to soak up these teenage years because I know it won't be too long.
Glorious. They're just glorious. Well, one of the big reasons we have you here is social media, and we are so excited to have you on an upcoming masterclass as well. So in the world of social media, where, like you said, everything changes daily. I shared with you before the show how I will go to my Get Social Smart Academy and I'll watch on LinkedIn and I'll have all the fields filled out, Katie Lance proud, and I will log in to go post my video 2 days later and there's like buttons. Like, who added that button? Or you don't have to click for the captions anymore, Debbie, and I'm looking for the captions. In a world ever evolving with social media, what are some of the trends that you're seeing that we should definitely be following in the real estate industry, both agents and brokerages? Because we have several brokerages that we work with. What are some of those trends to, I'm going to say this lightly, be authentic and still get the information out there?
Yeah. So what's interesting is things do change all the time, right? Like, we could be talking about something today and then like there's a new platform, who knows, that we haven't even heard of that'll pop up in 6 months, right? Like, there is sort of this ever changing thing. Sometimes it's like, oh, videos are big now. Oh, wait, videos aren't as big. Oh, now we should do this. Like, it totally changes. So I kind of want to actually say that I think that there's some really important foundational things that agents or brokers could do that don't change, which they're valuable today, and I can guarantee they're going to be valuable in the future. And one thing I would say is, like, to your point of authenticity, which I know is a buzzword, but spending time engaging and interacting with other people in your feed is hugely important. So whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram, doesn't matter what platform, but you can't just post and run, right? It'd be like running into a cocktail party yelling, I have an open house. and then just running right out and not talking to anybody, right? But this is what happens all the time. We post something and then we run. So much of social media and real estate is all about relationships. And so it shouldn't take a ton of time, but set aside 10 or 15 minutes a day. I do this every morning where I'm drinking my cup of coffee. I'll drink my cup of coffee. I'm scrolling through my feed, but it's not a mindless scroll. You have to be intentional I always think about, are there some posts that stand out to me, that make me laugh, that inspire me, that are interesting? And then leaving some meaningful comments. Leave a great comment, not just love it. That's great. But leave
Congrats.
a meaningful comment. Yeah, congrats. Write a few words. And actually in the world of social media, I would say this, a meaningful comment is at least 4 words. So you might say oh, congrats, Debbie. I'm so happy for you. Or happy birthday, Debbie. What do you have going on today? You could ask a question, you use their name. And that tiny little thing makes a huge difference because relationships are built with these small, tiny interactions over the course of time. If you want to use social media to attract people you want to work with, to build that know, like, and trust factor, part of that has to do with being a noticer. I tell my 2 boys, be a noticer. Notice what's happening in the world around you. And I'll tell people the same thing for social media. Notice what's happening, engage, interact. Again, this is something that's been true for a while, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. And then the second part of that has to do with what you are posting. So content has certainly changed a lot. I mean, it used to be, 5 or 10 years ago, you could really post anything, and it didn't really matter. You could post a link to an article or whatever, it'd be fine. And because there's so much noise and content and everybody and their mother is on social media, it's really hard to stand out. So I do think the good news is I think less is more. I don't think you have to post every single day, but it's the quality of what you're posting is important. And quality has nothing to do with I have to hire a videographer. I don't mean high quality, high def. I mean the quality of the value you're putting out. So just a quick example, a lot of agents, the mistake I make is their content tends to only be promotional content. Listings, just listed, just sold, open houses, testimonials. That's very promotional content, which is fine. That's part of your business. But if that's all you're posting, you're probably not getting a whole lot of engagement. Who's going to like and comment and share on every single one of your listing pictures? Your clients, possibly, maybe other agents.
If it's their house.
If it's their house, they're all about it. Exactly. So you have to balance that out with providing some other content. And this is where educational content, informative content. You don't have to be singing and dancing. You don't have to be doing anything crazy unless you want to, but just getting on camera. And this is where things like Reels, like Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, these 30-second up to 60-second where you're just talking straight to camera, you're sharing one quick tip. And I tell agents and brokers all the time, just think about the most frequently asked questions that come up time and time and time again, where you think to yourself, my God, if I get asked that one more time, that should be a quick video, right? And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. I always joke, I don't have a selfie stick. My arm is my selfie stick, right? Keep it simple. Prop your phone up if you need to, and just share a quick tip. Share something valuable. And when you can get in the habit of doing that, if you can post one of those, just once a week, maybe it's every Monday, you're sharing a quick tip or Tip Tuesday. Now you have a balance between promotional content, your listings, you're keeping your clients happy, open houses, promotional. But now you're also balancing it with the fact most people aren't buying or selling every day of the week, right? Staying top of mind with that helpful content is great. And as an added bonus, if some of that content can be somewhat evergreen or timeless, you can share it today and you can repost it again in 3 months and you can repost it again in 6 months and you can repost it again next year, right? So just especially things that are who pays for what, how to find a lender, what are the biggest mistakes first-time home buyers make? Stuff that just doesn't expire, so to speak.
Right.
So those few things, it kind of sounds like a lot, but when you really break it down, it's 10 or 15 minutes a day, engaging, interacting, being a noticer, setting aside maybe an hour or 2 once a week to create some content, post some content. And then just, I would say, lastly, making sure that you are responding quickly to things, responding to notifications, responding to your DMs. The more you do this, the more response you're going to get. It may not be, hey, I want to sell my house today, but you'll start to get a lot of comments. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so great. Oh, it's so great to see you. And that's where it starts. It starts with these little back and forth connections. It's all about those relationships, right? And that's also where people will start to reach out to you that you don't know at all. Like if you start to do this on a regular basis, it doesn't happen right away, but 6 months from now, you'll start to get, messages from people who say, oh my gosh, Debbie, I've been following you forever. Oh my gosh, I feel like I know you. I feel like you're in my head. And you're like, who is this person? But they've been watching you, right? And now, they're not hiring any other realtor. No, you're like the one, right? And now it's up to you to decide if you want to work with them. And the same goes true for brokerages. If brokerages are thinking about recruiting, the same thing goes true for them, right? If a broker can be on camera sharing success stories, sharing information about their office, sharing information about the community, like the same thing is true for recruiting and retention. So that was a lot to your question, Debbie.
No, that's perfect. I love that. So if you had to pick top two, and I know it's whatever people's preference are is typically the answer, but top two platforms, you would say agent who hasn't been really engaging and carving out the time to create purposeful content, what are the top two platforms you would recommend for a real estate agent? And then I'm going to ask the same question for a brokerage if they're different.
Well, I mean, honestly, it really depends, right? I know you probably don't want to hear that answer. Everyone wants to know, just tell me the platform. Part of it, here's what I always say. It depends on two things. Number one, where do you like to be? Especially if you're an agent, like, what brings you joy, right? If Facebook stresses you out and you just really don't want to be there, you don't have to be on Facebook. No one is forcing you to be on. So part of it is like, where do you enjoy being? Okay. But the second thing also, which you should consider, is where are your clients or your potential clients hanging out? And if you don't know, one of the things I recommend, I said this recently inside of our academy, I suggested that agents send an email to their database. So you might send an email saying something like, we are working on serving you better with our content you see on social media. And we're just wondering, where are you spending time? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, none of the above. And you might be surprised, right? You might be surprised where people are going. That being said, I do think LinkedIn is a really valuable place for a lot of folks. It tends to be like the place that doesn't get talked about as much for whatever reason. Maybe it's not as fun as Facebook or TikTok or I don't know. But I do think, especially for anyone, really agent or broker, LinkedIn is one of the only professional-only social media networks. You're not going to see a lot of cat videos over on LinkedIn. It's all
no
professional. Exactly. For agents, it can be a great place to connect with people who aren't on other social media platforms. Like C-level executives are generally not hanging out on TikTok, but they're probably on LinkedIn, right? So depending on who you're trying to target, a lot of people who focus on relocation, LinkedIn's a great place for them also. Investors can also be a great place as well. On the brokerage side, LinkedIn can be a great place to connect with agents and to position yourself as a thought leader through articles that a broker might write or newsletters that they could write on LinkedIn as kind of a thought leadership type position. So certainly something to consider. And then, of course, there's all the other platforms as well. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah. So we should cancel our MySpace accounts. We have to give them a little airtime today too. Way back in the, I'm dating myself now. Way back in the day.
I had a MySpace. I had a blog on MySpace.
Isn't that just perfect? That was like the cutting edge social media. And you could come up with your own name too. You didn't actually have to be who you were.
Yeah. I loved it. It was fun.
And I think that's great. That's exactly right. Oh my goodness. And I do agree with you. My children who are Instagram and Snapchat, TikTok, all of those things, they pick on me because I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has always been my favorite. It's always been the place I've gone, mainly because when social media became more popular, I was running a brokerage. And so it did enable me to connect with other agents out there, some reverse prospecting, put different types of value add conversations out there versus just the memes and that sort of thing. So LinkedIn to me has always been my favorite. My kids, when they say, Mom, why are you still on Facebook? And I said, well, have you seen the average sales price of the people on Facebook versus Instagram?
Yeah.
There you go. There you
exactly.
go. And LinkedIn, and I always say LinkedIn is where the money lives. So if you're on LinkedIn, chances are you have a job or you're looking for one. So it is definitely, those are my platforms of choice. And, I'm working on through the podcast, starting some YouTube short, YouTube long. I've seen YouTube really take off with realtors recently. I don't know if you have anything you'd want to add with YouTube and how how they can start to layer some of that, not necessarily quote social media, but we do see a lot of traction with our clients who are utilizing YouTube.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. It's not for everybody. It's a little bit of the long game. You really have to be patient on YouTube, and it's really different than any other social media platform. YouTube, as you know, is owned by Google, so it's the number 2 search engine in the world. And so I find that once someone kind of gets their feet wet with video, especially like doing reels and maybe even TikToks and just short form video content, and they're kind of ready to take it to that next level, YouTube is definitely something to consider, especially for, again, sort of content that is somewhat evergreen or timeless. Especially around local communities, local cities, local market areas. It's a way to really kind of get found higher in the search engines. It definitely takes time, though. You got to be patient. And just like anything, you got to be consistent. We've been publishing a video over on YouTube every week for about 8 years now, which is crazy. But it takes, it takes time. And I find too with YouTube, to be successful on YouTube, there's a lot of little things that make a big difference. We use ChatGPT to help with descriptions, to help with keywords, to just kind of optimize our videos even more with, kind of the wording. I also think that it's important to take your YouTube videos and promote them outside of YouTube. So LinkedIn's a great example. LinkedIn is, I love whenever we have a new video, I'll share it to my LinkedIn as an example. It's a great way to drive traffic to that. So I think there's a myth that I think there's a myth with YouTube that you'll just put stuff out and you get all these views, but you kind of have to put jumper cables on your YouTube channel when you're first starting and like sort of drive traffic there. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. It'll be interesting to see with YouTube Shorts. I haven't gotten a whole lot of traction on YouTube Shorts, but I'm still putting my short form content over there that is also on Instagram Reels. I repurpose a lot of content. So we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. It's interesting you said the 8 years you've been on there. And I was standing here as we're talking about YouTube thinking, when was the first Katie Lance video I watched? And I honestly think it was about 6 or 7 years ago. So that sounds about right. And I feel like I saw you in Men and I thought, well, social media. Like, let me see what this girl has. And like all through coaching, I just always direct people. If you hire a marketing person and they don't understand some platform, maybe they're rock stars at a couple, but not at others, sign up for Katie's, get social smart, go to her YouTube channel. Like I don't need to be the expert. You are already the expert. They don't need another one.
Thank you.
And again, it's great, quick. And that's why I say it's quick information. And that is what I like about a lot of the YouTube, even for agents that are utilizing it for community information or area specific new neighborhoods coming up. You can do a lot in just a real quick snippet on YouTube and get some really great information out there.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you mentioned and you're doing a ton around ChatGPT. So AI, is that really a thing?
Yes, it is. It is a big thing right now.
So give us 3 tips. How should we as realtors or broker owners use ChatGPT to improve our real estate business and make us busier?
Well, I don't know if you want to be busier, but
okay, more productive. We want to be more productive.
Yes. Right, exactly. I was like, every agent I know is already really busy. So there's a lot of things, obviously, you can use ChatGPT for. ChatGPT rolled out the end of November 2022, and especially this past year in 2023, we saw a lot of people talking about it, do's and don'ts. We've done a ton of classes. I've got a ton of YouTube videos about it. One thing I would say for anyone listening who hasn't created a free account yet, it's still totally free. You can go to chat.openai.com to sign up for free. And where I think ChatGPT really can help agents in a big, big way is to really help in areas that they might struggle with, especially in like the written word or any kind of written type of marketing. So for example, YouTube's a great example. You might have a great video and you put it on YouTube, but if you don't have a good title, if you don't have a good description, you're not going to get a whole lot of traction on that video. So we'll go into ChatGPT and we might say something like, I have a new video about X, Y, and Z. Can you write me a, compelling YouTube title, give me suggestions for the tags and the keywords, and write a detailed description that's search engine optimized. Boom, It's going to spit something back. Now, I'm not just going to copy and paste it. I always tell agents, don't just blindly copy and paste. But if ChatGPT can get you like 50% of the way there, that's a win for me, right? I'm going to look at it and kind of delete some stuff, add some stuff, make it sound like my own, right? And it's a huge time saver. So any kind of descriptions, like if you've got YouTube's an example, but same thing with Facebook or Instagram. Maybe you have a new listing. Maybe you've got some sort of picture that you've taken or content, and you're like, maybe you struggle with like just the verbiage of what to say on Facebook, like how to make that compelling. ChatGPT can be great for that. We see a lot of agents use this with listings. You can go into ChatGPT and say, I have a new listing. Here's the address. Here's some basic information. Can you write 3 social media posts? 1 for LinkedIn, 1 for Facebook, 1 for Instagram. Include emojis, include hashtags, and it's going to create something. It, again, may not be 100% perfect. Double check it. Always double check for fair housing. Make sure there's no bias in the writing. But those are some of the things I love to use it for. So descriptions, captions are great. And then just coming up with ideas. If you're stuck on marketing ideas, you're listening to this going, well, this sounds great, but I don't know, I'm really stuck on ideas. You could go into ChatGPT and say, I'm a real estate agent in this area, in this, in Denver, Colorado, or wherever you're at. Can you come up with 10 creative ideas to move the needle forward for me in 2024 with my marketing? Or I have a new listing and I need some creative ideas. I kind of like to use it as a way to brainstorm, as if you had like a virtual assistant right there. It's your AI assistant right there who can help you with things. So, there's, again, there's kind of limitless ideas. Email marketing is another one. I know email marketing is not as exciting as, say, social media, but if you've got a database, putting out helpful information to your database, I think is really relevant. And a lot of agents are just kind of putting out the same newsletter that maybe their broker's giving them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in addition to that, you want to send out your own content, your own information, your own voice. And if you struggle with writing, which honestly, a lot of agents struggle with writing. You might be great at the business of real estate, but if you're not a great copywriter, ChatGPT can help with that. So
yeah.
Lots of options.
Yeah, lots of options. And I've noticed more too, even in LinkedIn, but also in Canva, you can click on the button and it will give you rewrite options.
Yeah.
I tried that out a little while back in LinkedIn when it popped up. I was making a post. I had already done I outline in ChatGPT and brought it over and was typing that out. And I clicked rewrite with AI, and it gives you some really good options to either shorten your sentences or make it more bullet or make it more fluid. So I've seen more of these platforms actually going to AI as well for assistance in writing. And I will tell you, realtors out there that copy and paste into your listing descriptions, we know who you are.
We can tell.
There are words that no one really says that ChatGPT loves, and we'll leave those out of this conversation, because then ChatGPT will start giving it to me more because it's listening through my computer. But
Exactly. So I was like, oh, she wants more of those words. Okay.
I know. For example, I don't use that word.
Right.
Oh my goodness. So outside of AI, what are some trending or emerging social technology programs that you see that will help us in our business? Anything new out there that we should watch out for?
Well, it's hard to say anything outside of AI because that is such a huge conversation happening right now. I mean, I will say that I think the challenge is there's so many, this is always one of the challenges. There's always so many new shiny objects. It's really easy to kind of get distracted and go, oh, I'll try that, and I'll download this, and I'll try that. So, I always think it's important to stick to what works, stick to the basics. So there's so much that you can do without a lot of the, fun, shiny apps, showing up and engaging and interacting. I know it's not as exciting as some of the cool apps that are out there, but it is also really, really effective. As far as trends, I see, video's obviously still a huge trend. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I do think we're seeing kind of a resurgence of longer form video. We were so short form for a long time. It was 7 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And now TikTok is rolling out long form video. Instagram's starting to roll out longer form video. I'm seeing more people do podcasts like you have here, or longer form video content on YouTube. So that is kind of interesting to see. And I definitely think there's a place for that. We do some longer form content, and I love to listen to audiobooks. I love to listen to things that are longer than 30 seconds. Right. So I think that is certainly an opportunity. I don't think it has to be every piece of content, but I think we're starting to see more of that. The other thing I'm starting to see also is almost a resurgence back to text, like text only content. almost like mini blog posts. We're starting to do a lot of these on our Facebook page, and you might see this a lot on LinkedIn, Debbie, if you're active on LinkedIn, but a lot of people will kind of write these sort of like almost like mini blog posts as a post. They're sharing some insight, they're talking about something, and it's sparking a conversation. So we're starting to see more and more of that, which I think is also kind of interesting. Primarily Facebook business pages and LinkedIn. I feel like those are kind of the two places where we're seeing that a lot. But again, there's a lot of AI tools that are making things easier for video editing, for captions, titles. And I think we're only going to see more and more of it. I'm starting to see like Gemini, this is starting to roll out in a big way for Google users. I've started to play around with that. Canva, as you mentioned, there's some great AI tools in Canva now. One of my favorite apps I've been using a lot recently is an app just called Captions. If you go online, it's captions.ai, and it's an app you can use on your phone for video editing. So it's great because it'll take out your pauses, it'll put in captions, and it'll give you some B-roll and basically make your video look really nice and edited without you having to do a whole lot other than push a few buttons. So
there's the tip, captions.ai. Me, I stand there and I do it like 16 times because I had some weird awkward pause. And then I say, okay, let me just do that again.
Yeah. No, it's a great app. It is a paid app you have to pay for. I think there's like a free trial, I'm sure, but it'll even come up with suggested titles and captions, which are pretty good. You still got to read it over and, add in your own 2 cents. But it's an exciting time. I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's too late. I haven't started this. I'm not like, it's not too late. It's not too late. Like, we are still at the infancy of so much of this. So, you know, just dive in. And like you said in the beginning, progress over perfection. Done is better than perfect. Start with 1 or 2 things, and you can always go from there.
Yeah, I love that. One last quick question for you as I'm working on growing my social media, and you mentioned the long form versus short form. I agree with you. I will read someone's LinkedIn typed versus clicking on the article that says 2-minute read, because if it's not right there, I'm gone. It's on to the next thing. And with the podcast, the concept around doing the podcast was really so that we would have long form content that we can then chunk down into YouTube shorts, YouTube long, Insta reels, that sort of thing. And so, the key with that is I'm doing this part of it. So the next side of it is analytics and reporting. So what are some of those things that, my daughters judge it. I have 3 girls, by the way. You have 2 boys, I have 3 girls. They judge it by how many likes did they get, or how many, like, I don't know what they do, cheery faces or something. I don't know. But I do know, but like that determines a successful post, right? So what should we be looking at for analytics, measurements, reporting that might help us know, should we do more of that type of content versus something else?
Yeah, I do think it's important to look at your data, and there's so many data options. I mean, for podcasting specifically, I know for the podcasting platform we use for syndication, we can log in and look at number of downloads and look at all the kind of different parameters just on the podcast side of thing. YouTube has YouTube Studio, and you can look at how long are people watching your videos before they leave, or what are the top viewed videos, what are the top engaged videos. And then like Meta Business Suite has some great analytics for Facebook business pages and Instagram business pages. And you can look at your analytics and see, and I love with Meta Business Suite specifically, you can kind of sort your posts by posts that got the most interaction, or posts that got the most saves, or posts that got the most shares. So it's hard to say, okay, this is like the number one data point, because I do think every platform's a little bit different. But like, for example, with Meta Business Suite, going into your analytics, that's a great place to start for anyone who's on Facebook and Instagram. And within it's just business.facebook.com for anyone who's not familiar with Meta Business Suite. You go into there's a little content analytics section, and it'll pull up all your posts and even all your stories. And you can sort, again, basically by reach or interactions. Reach is one thing. I think reach is an interesting number because it's how far is your content getting out there compared to how many followers you have. I personally like to see either interactions, like how many people are interacting with that content. And an interaction could be liking, commenting, sharing, saving. And then you can also drill down into what type of content is getting saved versus what type of content is getting shared. And it's interesting. It's usually a little bit different. If you think about your own, what do you share? I know for me, I share things that are funny or inspirational, or I learn something, or it makes me look really smart because I'm going to share it. I save things where I'm like, ooh, that's good. Like, I don't know if I want to share that because I don't want people to know I don't know that, but I got to save that. Right. And so it's like, it's different types of content and people are going to react in different ways. So I generally will do kind of a deep dive in my analytics I would say once a quarter. I will go through Meta Business Suite, and then I'll go through my podcast analytics, YouTube Studio also. And you just kind of make notes of like what's performing well, what has gotten more interactions, especially YouTube. Sometimes I'll get traction on a video I posted 2 years ago, and I'm like, why is that just now blowing up? Maybe I need to do an updated version of that video.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of data, obviously. I don't look at it every single day because it changes so much.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I revert back to what you said earlier in the show was discussing how we can reuse the content, creating this evergreen content and then choosing which pieces of content do we then go and throw a new background on or put a little different quote on there or something, or add to, like you said, take it and plus it, add to whatever the information was. And that's more how I look at it too, is like you said, the shares, the likes, the comments are great and what performed the best. So then we can repurpose that for sure. Yeah.
And I would say every piece of content can really get repurposed in a number of different ways. I mean, like this podcast, I'm sure you'll share the link to the podcast, right? That's one. Then you could, like you said, you could transcribe it. You could turn it into a blog post or kind of a mini blog post. You can take the video and splice it out into a half a dozen little, clips for Reels or YouTube Shorts. You could put the full video on YouTube. Like, that's kind of the cool part about doing long form video. You may not necessarily get as much traction as like a quick 5-second fun little, meme or something, but that's not always the point, right? Like, you can't just look at views or likes. Like, it's sort of the bigger picture of everything, and I think sometimes we just get skewed and go, oh, I only got 200 views. Well, what if 200 people showed up to your house and wanted to see your video? Like, well, you're kind of creepy, but like, I just think we have this skewed view of like what's good. You know what I mean? Right. Yes. We just have to be patient. So
yeah, again, it's like that cocktail party. They're all there. You run through, you scream open house, you run out.
Exactly. I'm here. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am hopeful that all of the listeners take the entire podcast in because you have dropped some really incredible knowledge on us. So I always like to ask, where can they find you? And then I have one final question. So where can all of the listeners find you, find more information about you, your consulting, your programs, anything they need to know, Katie Lance?
Yeah, probably the best thing is just to go to my website, katielance.com, KATIELANCE, katielance.com. That's going to give you information on our Get Social Smart Academy. If you'd like to book me as a speaker or a trainer, we've got lots of classes. We have a lot of free resources. So all kinds of goodies, whether you're an agent or broker, that's probably the best way. And of course, social media. I'm at Katie Lance basically everywhere on social media. So feel free to send me a DM, send me a message, let me know, hey, I listened to that podcast with you and Debbie, and I would love to connect with you as well over there.
That sounds great. Okay, my last question, and I think you know what it is. Katie Lance, what is your superpower?
My superpower. I love that question. I would say my superpower, I don't know if this is corny or not, but I love being a connector. Honestly, that's like one of my favorite things is to, I'll be chatting with someone and they'll be talking about like something they're working on, and I'll be like, oh, I need to connect you with so-and-so. And I just love that. I think that especially in this business, just being able to connect like-minded people, it's just amazing. I've seen some cool partnerships and friendships and professional, relationships that have fostered that way. So I'm always trying to think about like, who can I connect to who? So that's what I'd have to say is my superpower.
I love it. Well, we are two peas in a pod. So I always say mine are growth and connections. Those are my two superpowers.
I love it.
You could email me anybody that you think I should be connecting with outside of this podcast that would we could invite as a guest or at a master class or just help me in my business. I'd love it. I'd love to help them as well. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, Katie. We are incredibly grateful. I know we'll be seeing you on stage somewhere, real estate related, and we wish you the best. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Real Estate Woman. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode.